According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a brume is a fog or mist. The example sentence they give is cloaked in the early morning brume. Okay, my Scottish accent is terrible. But the village did indeed look like some long-lost brigadoon, referring to the musical of a Scottish village that appears for one day every 100 years. I have no idea how that applies to a piece of networking equipment, but the latest from the super cool company GL Inet is the GL MV1000, also known as the Brume. Now, right up front, I want to let you know that GL Inet is not sponsoring this video. They sent me the Brume early with the hope that I would make a video. With the hope that I'd make a video a few weeks ago, but they had no input on what I would say or how I would say it, though they did clarify a few questions that I had about the product. So I feel comfortable letting you know that if this is the type of product you need, it's very good at what it does. So what does it do? Well, it might be easier to say what it isn't. It is not a travel router. It is not a Wi-Fi access point. The main purpose of this device is to sit on the edge of your network at home, at work, or maybe in some remote location. That location might have a network of computers or just a bunch of sensors collecting data, or you might just want to use your internet connection. While you can definitely use it to act as a VPN client, connecting to another service, its strong suit is to be the VPN server you use to connect to whatever is at that location. That's different than anything else I have talked about here. Now, if you find videos like this interesting, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell icon to be notified of new videos. I would love to say that I publish videos on a regular basis, but adopting a baby girl has been really hard, so videos come out when I have a chance. Subscribing is even more important, since I can't promise you when the next one will hit the internet. So here's the Brume. Looking at it, it looks like a light pink or purple version of the AR750. Well, minus these little Wi-Fi antennae. Looking around the device, it's just a touch different, sporting a USB port instead of a USB-A micro. But when you start to use it, you'll see it's a very different device. The most obvious difference is that there is no Wi-Fi on board, sort of. In one of the forums, I saw that there is a Wi-Fi chip on board, but the software isn't in place to enable this. Maybe this feature will come with a future firmware update, but they certainly aren't promising anything. So this uses Ethernet only. The second big difference is that there is 8 gigabytes of storage without needing an SD card. And eMMC, which is what this is using, is pretty fast. It's not SSD fast, but faster than many other options. And the third is that this is a much faster ARM processor. Some reports I've seen have compared it to the speed of the newest Raspberry Pi. That faster processor plus the faster storage bumps the performance quite significantly. Now, I said you can only use Ethernet, and that's not entirely true. You could also use the USB-C port hooking up directly to your computer or even your iPad Pro, but I had hit and miss success with doing this, as the power seemed to cycle every few minutes. I don't know why. So those are the big difference in hardware. The Brume is being marketed as an edge computing gateway device. Now, if you're familiar with the Slate or the Mango, you might think that this is just a newer version. But if that's what you're expecting, then this is a huge disappointment. Instead, this is the device that you add to the edge of your network to act as a VPN server, or even as a firewall. So rather than subscribing to a VPN service, most of which are nothing more than scams, you would connect to your home network via this device. And for that purpose, this performs beautifully. Just plug in the Ethernet cable from the Brume to the device from your ISP, and then another cable from the Brume to your Wi-Fi access point. And now the Brume can act as a firewall and that VPN server. To set it up, open a browser and navigate to the default IP address of the unit, 192.168.8.1. You can choose your preferred language and then set a default password. Since this is going to be on the outside of your network, make sure you use a good password. Password 123 is not a good password. Even better, use a service like 1Password or LastPass to set a unique and hard to remember password. Now, I have no idea when you're going to be watching this or when you get the device, so probably one of the first steps after logging in should be to go to the upgrade section and see if there is a new firmware update. If there is, then upgrade right away. And then go in and then enable auto upgrade to ensure that you're always at the latest version. Just like on your home laptop or desktop, you should always have this feature on, and all the OSs have some version of this. Now, of course, if you really love your collection of tinfoil hats, then there's no way to convince you of that. But let's move on. Now go to VPN. The main thing you should worry about is the VPN server. There are two options, though I don't know why they bother including OpenVPN. Stick with WireGuard, unless you know of a reason to go with OpenVPN. From everything I've heard from security people in the know, WireGuard is a far better solution to use, and providers that don't offer it may be lacking in other ways as well. You're probably learning that I am not a big fan of most VPN providers out there. In fact, I run my own service for a lot less than most others charge. I use a server called Algo on AWS with a Lambda function to enable and disable it to keep those costs down. Super cool and not that hard to set up. Maybe I'll cover that in a future video. Well, back to the Brume. Click on WireGuard Server and then click the Start button. Now click on Management and click the Add a New User button. Every user, machine, or device should have a new user created for it. So for me, my iMac would have one, and my MacBook Pro would have a different one. Every Raspberry Pi would have one. iPhone and iPad would also have one, as would my GL Inet AR750. Each device equals one new user. Now, click the configurations icon for that new user. If you're using a VPN client on your phone, take a picture of the QR code to configure it, or grab the plain text to copy to your VPN client on your computer. And that's all that's required. It's worth noting that if you don't have a static IP address from your service provider, you should enable dynamic DNS, which you can find at Applications, then Remote Access. If you don't want to use the DDNS feature from GL Inet, then go to Plugins, click Update, then filter on DDNS to install a plugin for your favorite provider. Note that many of these will require configuring at the command line or with the advanced UI, so for most people, the GL Inet service will be good enough. It's also worth noting that to get the most out of a device like this, you need a decent internet connection. If you have a 1 megabit connection, you will not have a great experience. Or if you're heavily weighted to download with a 50 megabit down and 2 megabit up, that's also going to be a terrible experience. What's good enough? I don't know. I have bidirectional gigabit, and it's less than $100 a month here in Boston. There are other parts of the country, like Kansas City, I think, that have better speeds at lower prices. And then there are places like where my mother lives near Seattle, where they can't get anywhere near that speed. The Brume can do a lot more than just act as a VPN server. You can configure it as a firewall. You can set up a DMZ, and using the thousands of plugins, there aren't many limits to what is available. It's not perfect, however. This is not a device that needs to be portable. I'm not going to need a VPN server in my hotel room. And since it has no Wi-Fi, then I can't think of any reason I'd want to travel with it. So it's going to be a permanent addition to my home or work network. But the tiny size means that it's a bit awkward. Too thin for many rack shelves in every dimension. And it also has only 3 ports, which is fine if this was a travel router, but it isn't. It's strange. But for the price, it's really good, and maybe good enough for a lot of people who don't rack mount their gear. I like this device. It works really well. If you have a need for an edge device like this, providing a super easy to configure VPN server, then consider it. It's available on Amazon at the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. I have a lot of other videos coming soon. Some of the other topics include more of the gadgets on my desk, some of the services from AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure that I rely on, including what I talked about at AWS reInvent just last week, and so much more. Sometimes those cloud services can be a bit daunting, but they can be incredibly useful and are not that difficult to use, assuming you have an open mind about doing it. And you can easily limit how much you spend. Currently, I spend about 52 cents a month for all the things that I do, including that VPN server that I mentioned. Now, you've just watched another video from the Techno Evangelist. My name is Matt Williams, and I love making videos like this, showing you the cool devices and software applications that I use in my job every day. If videos like this interest you, consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to get notified when there's a new video. We shall see if I can increase my cadence a little bit on these videos. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye.